We're having a conversation about the future of higher education. There have been many things said. There's been a presidential working party who had suggestions. There have been people who've been up and about talking about own revenue for universities. There has been questions about how we're going to fund this thing. There have been questions about students who don't know how they... Hey! Okay. Now, Professor Romanus Odhiambo is here with us this morning. Good morning, Prof.
Good morning.
Good to see you again.
It's great to see you, all of you.
Thank you so much. How are things at Meru University?
No, we are good.
Yeah?
We thank God.
All is well?
We are very good.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Maybe you can now help us navigate this conversation and see where we are going in terms of higher education in the country. But before we do that, let's welcome you in the hot seat kind of way. CT has gone to the island nation of Mauritius this week. You can see his umbrella and his straw hat. Use your imagination. And he's got a problem for us today.
Yes. A hen cannot lay eggs and hatch them at the same time.
Prof, what do you think about that? How does that...
There's time for everything. If you want somewhere, the hen want to lay the egg. That's the process. But then there's a process, there's a conception, there's everything. And just like the good Bible says that kuna saa ya kila kitu, there is time for everything. And once you know that, then you prepare and you plan and you get to what you want eventually.
Yeah, it's true. I don't know. PTCT will give you 1,000,000 points. Do with them as you wish.
Thank you.
Buy a plot if you want with him. As we're getting into this education conversation, I don't even think we're getting into it. I think it has become our lived reality over the last, few years in terms of what's happening. But let's just start by getting an overview from you of what you see the state of university education is right now, especially in the light of the released KCSE results that came just a couple of months ago.
Thank you very much, and once again, good morning, Kenyans. My name is Professor Romanus Odhiambo, a Vice Chancellor from Meru University of Science and Technology. A lot of changes are taking place in higher education, and these are actually caused by so many things. I hope we have not forgotten about COVID-19. We've not forgotten about climate change. We've not forgotten about socioeconomic changes throughout the world, and all these are affecting our education system, not only in Kenya but globally. But coming up to because of those changes, there are a lot of things that are happening. But again, in terms of the enrollment in the universities, we have continued to see a lot of rise of the number of students applying to the universities. So many every year. Today you have 10, tomorrow you have 10 plus, and just like that. So even this year, for the 2023, I think we expect more students than we had in 2022.
Right.
But then there are also those challenges of where do you fix them? You go to the universities, the capacities are not enough. The lecturers are not enough. The universities are also suffering from the financial problems. And then with so many students coming, you are not able to procure more lecturers, procure more equipment. There are so many challenges that are coming. Again, the changes in the climate and all this affect so many things. Again, you bring the students to the universities, and then because of the little money that you have, you are not able to feed them sometimes. You are not able to cater for their interests. A lot of things are happening. Yeah, that's what I can say for now.
If you were to give a forecast, normally we say, okay, well, is the weather good? Is the weather bad? Is it going to rain or is the sun going to shine? Whichever one you see is negative or positive. How would you then give a forecast on what we currently see happening and what it will look like moving forward?
The last 10 years for university education, especially in Kenya, has been going through down when it comes to financing. But I really want to thank the current government. We are all aware in the last I think last year or early this year, the government introduced a new funding model. And there's a lot of hope in this new funding model that if it continues the way it is in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, perhaps this negative trend that we have seen in the financing of University of Education will change. But still, we are not very sure. We are still just groping, and we hope that this will happen. But the worst case scenario is that what I've talked about earlier is that the socioeconomic situation of Kenya is also going very much down. The new funding model is good in terms of giving a loan, in terms of giving scholarship, but then there's that component, what we call the household component, where you and me, if I have a child coming to the university or if I'm a sponsor, that's my responsibility. But because of the socioeconomic challenges that we have, what we are seeing in universities, especially public universities where I've been for over 33 years, is that it's a real challenge. So yes, good, but yes, there's still some challenges. And I think what we have seen as Kenyans, I want to pass some good information that we have always been resilient. I think we'll get a way out of it. Yeah.
Okay.
When one talks of models, Professor, and you say it is a good model, what do you mean?
For the last almost 10, 15 years, the Kenya higher education system universities have been using a model which is called differentiated unit course. That means if I'm doing, that is DUC, if I'm doing art and you are doing medicine and she's doing engineering, these are different courses in terms of their resource requirement.
Sure.
And so this costing is basically based on that difference in terms of the equipment, in terms of the teachers, in terms of the medical, the learning experience that me as a teacher would like to have, and you as a doctor would like to have, and you as an engineer would like to have. That is what is called differentiated unit cost. So it takes into consideration the resource requirements, the time also you take in learning and all that. Now, the new funding model has gone a step ahead. It's still differentiated unit cost, but then also bringing our socio-economic status. As a parent or as a child, I may be coming from a family which is financially well-resourced, or I may be an orphan, for example, or I may be you and me. The way you look at me, my brother, you look like a I hope that does not offend you. You are a middle-income guy, the middle class.
I do not take offense.
Thank you very much.
One says complimentary.
And so what happens, the new funding model, which has been authored by our President Ruto, is basically taking into consideration of all this. So they have introduced what we call bands. So there's what we call there's part that will be if you come to the university, there's part where you'll get the loan, which we all know, the so-called Ringera loan, the help. Then there is the bursary, which we all call the scholarship. This one you don't pay. And then you come from a parents, or somebody sponsoring, there's the household part of it that you have to pay. So again, these are also now divided in all kind of stages. So if you are an orphan, for example, you can find that most of the time you get all the money paid for you, with very little one, maybe 5% or 10% that your parents or whoever your sponsor is going to pay for you. But if you are somebody coming from a well-resourced place, then you may end up even paying 40% as fees from your pocket. And this is what sometimes people have not understood. But I think that is a good thing. It takes into consideration our socioeconomic status. It takes into consideration the different courses we are taking. It takes into consideration the number of students coming to do those kind of programs.
So are we saying that with this with this model, that people whose backgrounds are definitely well-resourced, some can end up actually paying 100% of the fees that is required?
No. They will not pay 100%, but they can end up paying almost 40%. Yeah, so that the others, and that's a lot of money. For example, if you are doing medicine, for example, medicine is around 600,000, for example.
Per year.
Per year.
Yeah.
So 40% of that is 240,000. And the public universities and private universities have become very wise in that. That's now where we are fighting right now between the public universities and the private universities. So if I know you are a public universities, you are going to charge 240,000, and I know she's a private university. That is for the household, by the way. She's also a private university, so I'll basically make mine 230,000. And you remember, you are paying that, but I'm also giving you loan that you are still also going to pay. So that's the war right now. And so some murky areas that we are saying that for some time we need to give it time really to stabilize. I hope you understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who takes care of the rest?
I think it is all taken care of. I've told you that
So historically, or with now the recommendations from the Presidential Working Party on education reforms,
yes,
for higher education, the first part was a bit confusing because we heard, okay, those who are vulnerable, needy, almost needy, we heard all of that.
Yes.
So and then there was a loan, there was a grant, there was a something.
Yes.
I mean, all quite confusing, to be honest, in terms of who was supposed to do what.
Yes.
And by their own admission, the WEP was also wondering, okay, for us, this also might be a bit confusing.
Yes.
So when we are saying that, for example, medicine, you go to the university with 600,000 shillings and that's what you will pay per year.
Yes.
But then you end up paying maybe some 240,000 shillings. Who pays 360,000 shillings?
And that's what I was trying to explain. That in the new funding model, for which we are, as public university, we are very happy about, is that the maximum you'll pay as a well-resourced student is 240,000. For example, if your total fees per year is 600. Now, what remains, the 360 will now be paid by two people. Two people.
Yeah.
The first person is actually Higher Education Loan Board.
When and if you get the loan.
When, of course, we always try to, the government has tried to. And then the second person you quote is actually the University Funding Board, where they give the scholarship.
Yeah.
So you can go for the Higher Education Loan Board from Ringera, or you will also get part of it from the University Funding Board. And how much you get in whichever area is actually used, they will use a formula which is called the mean testing formula, which says that perhaps you are in this level. Of course, we can always assess that in terms of the many things you do, the KRA, the tax declaration, the M-Pesa that you use, and many other things. It will tell us the kind of a place, and with that we can now say of this 360, perhaps you'll get 60 loan, and then you can go get scholarship 300 and vice versa. No
matter your background.
Yes.
No matter if now all those classifications have been removed. Needy, extremely needy, vulnerable. All of those classifications have been removed?
No, and when you are coming now to do the mean testing, there are parameters that will decide now where to place you, whether you are needy, whether you are vulnerable, whether you are what. Because if you are an orphan, we'll check. It will have a point. We will also check the kind, if you are really needy and you are spending almost at 100,000 every day in M-Pesa, we'll get you. If you are saying you are needy and we go to check your KRA tax declaration, what you pay, and it is millions, we'll get you. So all this is your own information, and we use that information to classify you. And that's what Ringera and this team, my friend Munari in University Funding Board, are calling the mean testing instruments. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We saw last year KCSE students, after having sat, rather Form 4 students, after having sat the KCSE. The results of those then were released this year, and there was chatter about how this was a dismal performance, and that the number of students then who finished the exam, who then would get a place at university, was low. That's one side. At the other side, we also hear that, just like you said, in terms of space, in terms of capacity, there really isn't enough to take on the number of students, 800,000 essentially. And if you were to say, let there be complete transition to university, which we can't do, there must be a cutoff, right?
It must be a cutoff.
There must be a cutoff. However, we're still saying that are we still in the position whereby spaces at university, whether public or not, are not adequate to take in the number of students that are coming, or is there a balance?
I think it's 50-50. For example, in most of the public universities, what we have had in the past is that, what they raise is all tied to the funding model. And I want to explain this very well to all Kenyans. We have had the DUC, which was saying the government should pay 80 shillings of the 100, and then the government was to pay 20%. The parents were to pay 20%, and the government pay 80. Now, over the last 10 or 15 years, this up to the time we are talking now, instead of the government paying 80, I think because of the socioeconomic problems that we have, the government has been paying around 48 to 50. You get this? So the question is, where do you get that gap of about 30 shillings? That has been the problem. And hence the move to the new funding model. And because of that, the resources that are available, you are not able to admit all these students who are normally passing. And so, yes, to answer your question, I think we have not had enough resources. But now that the new funding model is coming, maybe the expansion with the spaces and the resources, that will be there. And so, in the past, if you remember, I'm not advocating this, but I think it's also a good thing. Because we are not getting enough money for some time. You remember we used to have self-sponsored programs. This was very good because through that, the universities were now able to get some extra money from these people and then close the gap between what the government was supposed to pay and they were not paying. Now with that, you could now hire more lecturers, you could now hire more part-timers, you could now buy more laboratory equipment like my university, which is Science and Technology University. You need a lot of things. And for now, for that time, it was not possible. So yes, I think with the new funding model going forward in future, if it continues, I think the space will be there and we may move on. Yeah.
Every time one talks about funding models and one looks at what is actually useful, you're right. If we look at the socioeconomic status and the instability of it right from the time of COVID and the ramifications of it, we haven't stabilized yet. Because industries are closing, people are losing jobs. So even as we think of applying this particular model, let me just ask the question, as a layman and someone who's completely ignorant of these models, was this the best possible model that we could have adopted?
There were assumptions, sir. The assumption is that instead of getting around 58% of the 100 shillings you are to get, the new model, the assumption is making now you'll get the whole 100%. Did you get me? That in the former model, you were supposed to get 100. The parents pay 20%,
but the government
pay 80%.
The government was not able to pay.
Yeah, and that has been a problem.
That is a problem.
And that's what the Ruto presidency right now is trying to address, that we want a situation where if you are coming to the university and your fees is 100, then you have to pay the whole of 100. And that's why they are saying now that the parent must pay this amount depending on your level of vulnerability. And then the others, all of it will have to be paid, either in form of loan or in form of what? In form of scholarship, where you are right. And that's still going to be a challenge. And that's why we have pleaded to the government to give us time to study this. The same person who is paid the household is being affected by the global economic trend. By the way, it is not just Kenyans who are having problems. You just say that the companies are closing, and it's a global problem. And so most people do business, most people are working. And when their companies closes, then they will not be able to pay the fees, what I was calling the household contribution. And that is going to have a serious ramifications. And so you'll find that, yes, the government has given the loan. You'll find that, yes, the government has given the scholarship. But now the money that you are supposed to pay, like what I was talking about, the 240,000, whoever is supposed to pay it maybe has lost a job. Then that is going to be a serious problem.
My goodness. So we're actually looking
So
at a
that is
situation
the assumption
Yeah.
that we need to address going forward. Yeah.
You know, I actually think the model makes sense, and it's a model I would argue should have been instituted a lot earlier, because there are people who could actually afford to pay
That's true.
university fees.
That's true.
All of it.
That's true.
There are very many who could
That's
actually
true.
afford.
That's true.
I say this because there are parents who pay school fees that are even more than what we pay for students who are in the university.
No, we pay 80,000, 100,000 per term.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Most of them.
So what I'm saying is, it is a model that at least seeks to ratify or make good a situation that had
It's
proved to be
lopsided.
untenable. No, it worked at a time when there were few students going to university.
Yeah.
The population was small, but right now, no.
Okay, there are many things that have been said. Yes, we saw Form 4 students getting into university, those who made it, the number of A's vis-a-vis the number of students who sat the exam. Okay, let me rephrase that. The number of those who qualified to go to university vis-a-vis the number of those who sat for the exam over the years has dwindled. We've seen a lower number qualifying to get to university. We also saw that the Working Party has made certain recommendations, whereby what happens as a result of that is that you open up the bracket and you then make it possible for more students to come into university via qualification. And we're not just looking at a hard C, we're not just looking at a hard C plus, but now we're looking at an overall performance, which then decides whether you will then go to university or not. Park that. 2027 is the last time we will see a Form 4 exam in the name of KCSE written that will then guarantee or not your entry into university. How is this all changing, and what does it mean? And are we satisfied with the way in which it is going to see that transition then between Form 4 and university?
Thank you very much. I think I would like to start by saying that we have realized in the past that things are possible. I know you are talking like from 2027 we'll be migrating to the new system.
Yes.
But it's not going to be the first time. Remember, before that, the system him and myself went through was different from the 844. And at one time, I think the Kenya government decided to have a double intake, and that thing's along the path is gone. The same thing may happen when again, after 2027, the Form 4 do exams, and then we are having the CBC coming in 2029, and we may have a double intake, and I think it will be clarified. The Kenyan government right now, especially at the university level where I am, through the Commission for University Education, is actually coming up with a framework on how the current system that we are using at the higher university is going to migrate to the CBC system, and I believe this is going to be sorted out. But again, Kenyan government made a decision that we are going to have 100% transition from primary school to secondary school and now to tertiary and university education. And these are the effects. That's what we have seen. Whereas you have said that the numbers are going down, they are not going down. Actually, the numbers now accessing tertiary education and university education is actually higher. And that's why sometimes even the money that we have to finance all these things keep on, it's not that it is going down, it's the people who want it who have increased. I would like to use an analogy like in your house, you have this amount of ugali or githeri, and then many people have come. So it goes down, but it's still the same amount. And that's what the new government is trying to address on how the level of preparedness as we get more people going on. You also earlier on talked about the people who did Form 4 last year.
Yeah.
Please,
KCSE.
Kenyans should not have forgotten. These are the COVID babies. Sijui kama mmesahau. You remember, these are the people who took one extra year down there.
These are the learners who in 2020 sat at home for 9 months in Form 1.
Yes. So we must understand that. And even though people saying some of them did not pass very well, it's the challenges they went through. But in terms of the proportion, that the number that is coming to universities and TVET, they are even higher. And it's because of this thing of the government of 100% transition. Going forward in future, education is a human right. As a professor, I always believe that if I want to go for a degree, you should not control me. Yeah. Okay, if you block me here in Kenya, I'll go somewhere else. I think, and this is what the government, I think, is trying to address now. See how you can infuse a lot of resources so that we accept all these people. But also, I see the government is also being very clear that they are also not interfering with the private enterprise. We have many private universities. Those who are not able to access the public university because of the limited resource limitations, they can also go to the other places. But again, TVET's resources, education institution in this country have been increased. You go to even your constituency, I don't know, madam, where you come from.
My constituency needs an airplane to reach. But okay.
We have TVETs, at least one TVET institution in every constituency in this country. And we have almost over 290 constituencies. And they have been given the capacity, they have been given equipment, they have been given everything. And right now with the CBC and the whole world, the people really, besides getting a degree, but the people really are really needed so much are skilled people. People who have skills, people who have a bit of attitude, people who have a bit of knowledge, and those people are actually being developed in the TVETs. So yes, I'm saying that going forward, we are going to see more people, some going to the TVETs, some going to the university, public universities, some going to private universities, and some even going to the global university. But very importantly, as we move forward, there is a new way of giving education. And I think one thing I like with the route of presidency right now is about digitizing everything. In the university, it is no longer going to be the physical requirement that you require, but also the universities are being challenged really to digitize the way they teach, the way they examine, the way they do everything through digital technology. And I think that's going to open a greater higher education space.
The model that we speak of, the one that we were reminiscing over, where you're given something called a boom. And then, of course, the Higher Education Loans Board came into being. The model presupposes that people will be in employment so that they're able to pay back the loan. So when you have a situation where a good number of the people who've graduated do not have employment, or we don't have a system by which you can actually track where they've gotten their employment so that we can claim back the money, the circulation of the money as was intended will now not take place. So the money that was supposed to go back to the kitty to enable other people to learn will not be there. And if the unemployment rate continues rising, the deficiency also continues to grow. So you'll have a situation where the government is always being hard pressed to look for more money to put into the institution that lends people money, but it doesn't quite get it back.
So it's a cycle that is dysfunctional at best.
It's a rather vicious cycle because, and it's an upward moving vicious cycle because the numbers of those who don't get employed is increasing, it's not decreasing.
That's also true, sir.
Yes.
But that boom is still there, let me tell you.
Yes.
Let me just correct this perception.
Yes.
I said you get loan, you get scholarship, you also, your parent pay the fees, but also the government is also giving you money into your pocket. It ranges between 20,000 to almost 60,000 per year. So this is the money that rotates. And so for some people like you, the way you look at me and myself, I think we were very poor when we were young. They are also using it to help the parents pay the household contribution.
This money.
So it doesn't all just go to school.
No, it doesn't. This money that people get it doesn't just go into education. It looks. He's right. It looks after families. It ensures that children go to school, siblings go to school. So I am simply saying that when you have a problem where you can't guarantee the return of this money into the kitty, then the problem gets compounded. So the government actually has a very difficult task of trying to understand and actually fix this particular gap.
So this is a question, and I think that a lot of people are grappling with. And if I remember correctly, some of the members of the Working Party actually asked this question. And they said to themselves when they were discussing, you know what? Can we guarantee that there will be this functioning cycle, because that is actually the thought, that if we were to create a fund, which has been created, Ringera's HELB, as you call it, that we must then be able to guarantee that this pot is always full, so that we can continue helping those students who need this funding. And also, if we're going to call it a public university, we already know that what that means is that the responsibility of funding the education lies in the hands of government.
That's true.
Right? But in order to guarantee that this pot remains full, it's a loan. You return it with some kind of interest.
It now goes around.
It must keep going round. But the only guarantee of that is that these students whom you've given the loan, when they finish school, they go get a job and they start paying back. Now, you, unfortunately, who is looking for the guarantee, is the same one who has to guarantee that these people get jobs.
Yes.
So you're almost shooting yourself in the foot by saying we must keep funding. But at the same time, you must be sure that the people who graduate from the School of Engineering
get jobs.
You don't do.
Is that not difficult to do? Is there another model that can be used to ensure that this cycle does not break?
I don't think there's any other model, but I think there are other things that we have to do as Kenyans.
Okay.
And His Excellency the President has talked about this to the extent that sometimes is being misunderstood. He's saying his business as a president is really to create jobs for the young people, for Kenyans.
It's actually not his job.
His job is to create
his
opportunities.
job is to create opportunities, or to create an environment.
Create an environment for that to happen.
Yeah.
And so I'm just trying to say what you are saying.
Yeah.
That for us to address these things, somebody must pay for education. That's for true. It can't be free.
Yes.
You need chemicals, you need teachers, you need everything, you need money, and somebody must pay for it. And this somebody is what we are trying to address as a government. This somebody, it must be you yourself, the household. It must be the government herself giving the scholarship, the bursary. That one hautalipa. It must be also the government coming again to give you, as he has realized you are not able to pay, but he can loan you money, which you pay.
Yes.
But then he's also saying that, please, I still have a responsibility. These are my citizens. They may not be eating the university. He still also give you what he was calling the boom, which ranges between 20 to almost 60,000 per year. Yeah. So I think everywhere, these are global issues. It's not just a Kenyan thing. And what we need to address is the balancing. How do we balance it so that at the end of it, we are able to get the people who are educated, the environment is created so that when they leave the education, they can find where to fit, do business, do jobs, do all kind of things. And I think for future, there's a lot of opportunities in digital space. I was in China about 3-4 months ago, and these things, when the government was talking about digitizing the economy and everything, you know, their 5 agenda, there's still a lot of opportunities in digitization of our jobs, in digitization of our industries. There's still a lot of opportunities in things yet to be done. Do you know there are jobs for future? There are jobs that we still do not have. And that means you still require education that will train people to go outside there and start those jobs that we do not have. Start those businesses that we do not have as we are. As we talk about education in the future, we must know that even the jobs we are doing there, 20 years, 30 years, they'll not be useful. That I can tell you for sure. It will change. And that means we have to come up with a way of rebranding and reskilling even those of you who are already in the industry, and even the new people who are coming, to have the capacity to think big and to think in the new way of doing things in the years to come, for the jobs that are yet to be discovered, for businesses that are yet to be built.
You know, it's interesting because you sit you sit here in this room as an educationist, but you also sit here in a capacity as a vice chancellor for a science technology university. We've known that universities around the world essentially build and develop into cities, and that because of what a university does, usually you'll find that business thrives around that area. Then then you get resources which will then develop the revenue stream or revenue sources for a particular university, so much so that universities as entities stand on their own, and then they actually become beacons for other units of society. There are very, very many examples
That's
whereby
true.
even this government funding that we're talking about becomes an option. We
Yeah.
can use it fine, but we are not going to depend on it.
That's true.
This has happened.
That's true.
Meru University, do you see that some of these things are happening?
Thank you. That's a good question. We have to think. We have to live in an environment which embraces paradigm shift. At Meru University of Science and Technology, we are focusing on three things: teaching, research, innovations, and community service. Now, teaching, we all know, teaching and training. But then we have a division which is called RISE. That is research, innovation, commercialization and extension. Research, innovation, commercialization and extension. The thinking is there has to be people in the universities who are engaged in serious knowledge, opening up, knowledge discovery, knowledge, innovations and all the rest. And through that, you should be able to come up with innovations. And with those innovative products, you should be able to develop commercializable products that are going to impact the community, hence the extension. So yes, that is why we are focusing a lot of our energy, and that's why we have created the division of RISE. And we are very thankful to our Chancellor, the former Chancellor, Dr. James Mwangi, and the new Chancellor. This is the talk we are now having with our staff, with our students, that when you come to Meru University of Science and Technology, where we do sciences and technology, the way you are taught, the way everything is done, you must also be engaged in research, serious research, be it at for fourth-year final projects, be it at the graduate, the master's level, so that this research, again, is not just for the sake of it. You have to do research that is going to impact, transform, and change community and add value to it, so that the community can see the value. And thereby, through that research, you'll have innovative products that will now attract the community to come and buy them, and therefore create another source of finances to the university. I remember when I went there about 5 years ago, it was very little, but today it's one of the very active divisions where students and professors are engaged just like the way they are engaged in teaching of the students, so that you can create that RISE pathway for bringing money to the university.
It's interesting, and I really don't believe that there are not enough of our African universities who are offering this model to their own countries. And really taking it seriously, whereby the innovation, the education, the research that is done on campus, which is huge. It's mind-blowing, earth-moving stuff. I feel that it does not leave the gates of the university often enough for an impact to be felt. And that what needs to be done is that it needs to be communicated. It needs to be taken with the utmost seriousness, because then we see a situation whereby, not again, maybe for the first time, and then with more frequency, we then see universities or these higher institutions of higher learning at the forefront of a lot of things that nations need today, that are needed today. We talk about manufacturing, for example.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. And that's why we have said in Meru, we don't just want to say research. We want research with an output which is going to be innovations. And that's just not just an innovative product that is useful to the community, and therefore you bring in because they like it. You remember the RISE,
yes.
Because they like it, it will produce, it will be a business enterprise, commerce, that kind of thing. So that's what we are saying, and we have talked with our professors that the kind of research you do must be answering to the community problem, so that they see value for it. And I think that's what is happening. I think if you see the universities right now, that's the direction we are all trying to take right now, especially science and technology universities. Yeah.
So can we see a situation whereby this that we talk about, the University Funding Board,
Yes.
this whole story of let's wait for this pot to fill so that we can help other people, can we see a situation whereby right-thinking, forward-thinking institutions now are realizing, hang on a minute, we actually do have a role that can be played. It's not just about the world is our oyster. No. Actually, yes, that the world actually is your oyster, and that there's certain things that you can do to guarantee that this circle keeps moving. The cycle continues. There's no break in the cycle. But at the same time, you're doing profile lifting.
That's
because of institutions of education, of higher learning, whereby communities and nations are affected positively.
Thank you. Universities that are going to survive in the years to come are the ones that are going to do what exactly you are describing. The sources of finances that we require does not have just to be government. And I see it, I've said it, it's going down for the government. And we don't blame the government. The government has many mouths to feed. So the only way forward for all our Kenyan universities and universities world over is to create another pathway. And that's why I think RISE agenda in university must be given even much bigger role than teaching agenda in the university. I've said in Meru University, for example, that if I employ you as my professor, I expect you to teach not more than 30%, a third. The other almost 2/3 should concentrate in RISE agenda. Because through RISE, you'll be writing proposals. And when you write proposal, it comes to the university. I take about 10 to 15% now to come to the university. The others you can eat and do research with, and then also produce innovative products which are commercializable, which we can sell. And we have an enterprise policy that now when you sell it, you get your part, mimi napata yangu. And this is actually the thinking that Kenyan universities are currently embracing.
Has it worked at Meru University? And do you have examples?
We have just started. We have just started. Yeah.
I am glad you've just started because I know there are universities that already have begun an enterprise unit within them. Some older ones like Egerton.
Eunice and Egerton.
Egerton began a long time ago.
Yeah, the yogurt.
Yeah, precisely. Karatina University with their coffee.
Yeah.
They even have coffee flavored yogurt now.
Yeah.
So I'm simply saying, if the focus was yes, and if we institutionalize what you're saying, then this funding problem that we have can actually be brought down to the point where it is extinguished.
That's true.
The university will likely be doing what a university is supposed to do. Yes.
Yeah. And that's true. And that's what we are defining at Meru University. What is a university supposed to do? You know, in the past, it was, when it comes to research, is do research and publish. But now we are changing it to be RISE agenda. That you do research and it doesn't stop at publications. You must convert that into an innovative products, with a commercializable innovative products that answers to the community problem so that the community can come and buy that. That is the reskilling. That is the re-engineering that Kenyan universities in the years to come and starting from now we have to do, because we have now been convinced that the government does not have enough resources to give us the 100% of the money that we require. And so we must create separate pathways that eventually add up to the whole basket that constitute the 100%.
Do you think that universities, institutions of higher learning, need to be in a constant state of communication and idea sharing with government in nations, in countries, in Kenya? Should they not be constantly sharing ideas back and forth?
I think we should. And for public universities, maybe let me make it very clear. The Kenyan government owns the university, public universities. And in every board, every council, the government is represented.
Yes. However,
so
are they communicating?
Communicating.
There's a big difference between being present and being aware.
I think that's where we need to put more efforts, communicating what is happening in the universities, and especially through the government reps in the university. Be it the Treasury, we have a representative from Treasury. Be it the State Department, we have a representative. But I think that interactions, we need to increase it. I think that's what I can say for now. Yeah.
All right. Give us a snapshot into the future with the conversations that are being had today with a working party that spent maybe, almost 9 months going around the country and saying, okay, let's figure this out. They did it at levels from pre-primary to primary. Now we're having so many changes. Now we're looking at this level. What do we see that we can then say futurely it will work or not?
Thank you very much. I really want to thank the Kenya government for forming the Presidential Working Party, which have come up with a document which we have started implementing. And I think for us in public university, especially Meru University, by the year 2029, we'll be ready for adoption and implementing all that word for word. We have already appointed Senate committees that are already working on this, working on the curriculum, working on things that need to be done so that we are ready for implementation on this. But again, at Meru University of Science and Technology, we are also aware that the whole world of higher education is changing. And so we are setting ourselves ready to be that university that are going to take people to where they want to be. And we do this through reskilling of our lecturers. We do this through buying more equipment that will put our students in a position where they'll be able to fit and be ready to in the future. The world of the future requires somebody who is global in his mind. The world of the future requires somebody who is digital, technology oriented. The world of the future requires somebody who is flexible. And so the curriculum we are building, we are coming up with in Meru University of Science is going to take into consideration all these guys. Somebody who is not just trained for Kenya, but is trained for regional, continental, and global. Somebody who is not trained to fit in one job, but after some time is trained in such a way that he can adjust, can even get more information and more knowledge so that he fits in the coming jobs or the jobs yet to be discovered. Somebody who is a net and a team player, somebody who is critical, who is philosophical, who can ask questions why, what, and how. That is Meru University for you, and we are not going to let you down, even as I invite you to come to Meru University of Science and Technology, where we are basically almost 85% science and technology courses that we offer.
That's what's needed. Professor Romanus Odhiambo is the Vice Chancellor of the Meru University of Science and Technology and has been our guest this hour as we take a look at what higher education will look like in the coming days and years in this country. Thank you for being here this morning. We hope to talk to you again soon and see progress.
Thank you.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.